everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations. If you are returning, thank you. We love to see you here. And if you are new, I invite you to hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, keep us coming into your feed. And we have multiple videos a week to keep you entertained, keep you learning something new. Today, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but here's the thing. I often get paint colors for special projects that I don't manage to finish before they start getting a little bit sketchy. So I happen to have a couple of Annie Sloan colors, one in an old white, the other in French linen, that they're at the bottom of the barrel and they're kind of thick and grungy. And I'm sure that you're probably like me, where you get more paint than you needed for a particular project. Another project that needs that color just didn't happen along in a very timely way, and you get stuck with leftovers. So what I thought that I would do to use these up is a technique that usually I will use salt wash for, but I wanted to do in a format that you didn't have to buy something special. Meaning, you've got the old grungy paint, I don't want you to have to go out and buy another ingredient in order to be able to do the project. So we are gonna do it with baking soda. And I just happen to have this big, huge container of it because I asked my husband to pick up baking soda and he came home with this. And I'm like, honey, I just needed the small one. I didn't even know it came this size. And how much baking do I do that I'll work through this? So I've managed to work through until about here. And then I shifted it over to the shop because I'm sure it's not great anymore at doing the leavening thing that it's designed for, but it's gonna be perfect in my shop. So what I have are some glass containers. So I've got 3 of different sizes. So they kind of work together ultimately in a vignette. But we are going to create kind of a textured paint finish on these. And so I'm going to add a bit of water here to kind of start to loosen this paint up. And we'll see if I need to grab a stir stick or whether my plastic spoon is going to be sufficient, because this is the tougher one. This gray has, this vintage linen, kind of a taupey gray color, has thickened up a fair bit. And I just want to loosen it a little bit because what I want to do is create a textured paint. So salt wash will do this, but so will baking soda. And you can actually add a little bit of salt to this as well to create a bit of that same salt wash kind of idea and texture. But what we're going to do is just get this paint a little bit looser so that we have a little bit of room for creating some texture by adding some of that baking soda. And let me start by working on the cream because it's going to be easier. I'm sure there's a formula for this that somebody can drop in. I am just looking at adding a bit at a time to create a texture that works for me and that makes sense. If you happen to add a little bit too much baking soda, it gets a little bit too thick, add a little bit of water to thin it out. So there's not really a major magic statement to this, but I had a fair bit of this cream color. So I'll probably finish this project and then look around the shop for what else needs to have some texture added to it and go to town a little bit. But I'll show you, this is more the texture I'm looking at here. So I'm looking for something like this. It's kind of goopy. It's got some texture to it. It's not a smooth paint. A tinge more. Yes. So you can see it's kind of thick. It's a little bit plastery looking, right? So that's kind of what we're after there. Now this French linen, it kind of came with its own lumps and goopiness already. And again, I'm not too worried about that, apart from some of the big glops, because I'm going to be adding texture in anyway. So it's kind of the perfect kind of thing to do with that paint, where you're never really going to get it perfectly smooth again, and it's already sort of dried out a bit, and you're just going to use it in a textured way. So all that we are looking at doing is taking that heavy, thick, sludgy mess and brushing it on to our piece. Now, you can see already that if I just add it onto my piece in kind of a motion like this, I'm already going to be getting texture happening, right? You can see that it already starts to look a little bit more, almost like, I see little flicks going. Good thing I'm at a work table. So it almost has a bit of a concrete sort of finish to it. But you can, depending upon what look you're after, so this may be the look that you want, 2 coats like that, or you may want to stipple. I would suggest doing the first coat in this kind of smooth wrap, so that you create, especially if you're doing this over ceramic or glass, that you create a surface that your next coat will stick to, and that you then create a texture that you want. Whether you're going to stipple it, you're going to just wrap it like this for this kind of texture, or whether you then apply it in this texture and then add texture. Meaning, you could do this and then wrap it in bubble wrap and remove the bubble wrap and have that texture, right, embedded into it. You could take a comb and swing the comb all around it so that you end up with ridges in there. So you can use that second coat to create any kind of textural design that you're after. What I'm looking for is kind of that two-tone effect. So I've got this creamy old white look happening there, and now I want to take this French linen and I want to add it on for this two-tone effect. And it kind of starts to look almost like a concrete kind of finish, especially with these colors. You can choose any colors that work in your decor. This would be really cool in kind of beachy colors, you know, of the sand, and the surf would look good with this. But you're just gonna wrap it around, and look how quick and easily that goes. And it really does adhere super well. I mean, normally I'm using the DIY clay paint, which is what I sell here in the shop. But I do end up with odds and ends of other companies' paints because, you know, I'm painting something according to what my client likes and what my client wants. And it's not unusual for them to come in and they say, I would like it painted in this color by Annie Sloan. Would you do that? If it's a paint that I'm comfortable with, that I like, and then no problem, I will do that. If it's a paint I'm not familiar with or that I don't like, I will say no. So latex paints, I don't use at all. So don't even ask. But here you go. This is what we're after. Now, what I'm thinking that I'd like to do is, because I'd like to use these together, so I want the same tones together. I don't want them finished in exactly the same way, meaning I don't want this one done with just the two tones. like it was already, unless you alternate it or make it different. So, you know, maybe the dark French linen on top and the cream on the bottom. Or I'm thinking maybe I could try an angle. Maybe. All things are possible at some point, right? So let me try. Okay. Number 2. And my third one. Okay, maybe on this one I try a little triple line. So let me see if I can show you my little assortment and roughly what they'll look like. So nice patterning, especially if I go to group them together. What I'm going to do is let these dry, and I will apply a second coat just so that I get a little bit better coverage and that it's definitely more opaque. I don't want to have a see-through look to them. And then I'll come back at you for finishing these. But you can see already some of the possibilities of just very quickly and easily dressing up some old containers, making them into much more decor items, still usable on the inside because, I mean, these are glass, if they were ceramic, if they were vases, to be able to get a brand new look. But I'm definitely digging this. So I'll see you shortly for finishing these off. Yesterday, after we had finished, I've got my 2 coats on all of my pots, but yesterday after we finished, I had this wooden kind of urn shape, and I painted it in the French linen color. And I thought that what I would do is just now take the 2 colors and add in the texture. I just had so much more of this paint than I anticipated with the baking soda in it, that this is painted, so it's already given it kind of a rough texture. I thought, you know what else have I got in the shop that I could do up? So we're gonna give it a go. And I just thought maybe this pouncing kind of look with those 2 colors. You can still see the thrift store tag on the bottom. I like to keep track of what I paid. But I was thinking that maybe between doing this texture on there, and I am gonna add some of the French linen, which is much thicker than the white. So adding some of this in, and then when I go to seal it, when I wax it, that it might end up looking sort of like a cement, right? Like we might give it a bit of a cement finish here. And you can see that I'm not having to re-dip very much here to give it kind of this softened sort of mottled look, but it's definitely giving it some texture. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry and see what that ends up looking like so that I can add more of either of the colors at will. I also took an old board that I had, you know, just because I had stuff, and I painted it in the textured French linen. And now what I thought was I just sort of like almost dry brush the baking soda cream color that we've got here. Just again, adding a bit more texture to it. And then I like having sometimes boards that are sort of finished on hand. So when I, at the last minute, decide that I want to do up a sign for something that, you know, I've got something that's already painted up and ready to go. Now this is an old pallet board, so it is super rough. And what I'm hoping is that when I sand this, that between the roughness of the board and the roughness of this texture, I might get a cool look. We'll see. So I've got some nail holes here that I'm just adding a little bit more texture to. And this is the cool thing. Just, you know what? You just play. You just see how it goes. Okay, I kind of like the look of that board. It's looking pretty cool though. Definitely lending some texture to it. Okay. We're gonna leave them overnight again to dry completely so that we can take a look at them tomorrow and see about finishing them off. As it stands right now, I'm kind of really thinking this is a cool technique. I'm liking this a lot. And I think for these get a chance to dry out again, I may have to look for some other projects to use these on. But right now, I'm really happy with the way that this used up paint that might not have been great for painting furniture and getting a smooth technique, but we took advantage of it already being kind of thickened and clumpy, and we took it to the next level, and we're creating some cool things. So good use for old paint. Now that our pots are dry, it's time to seal them, but I just want you to check out a little bit closer the amazing texture on these. So this is the one we stippled. Can you see that fabulous texture? And they've really just kind of totally changed their look, right? You can see these kind of staged up together. And you'll recall that I did that wooden kind of pedestal bucket in a major stippling of the two colors, just kind of matching into being almost like concrete. And it looks awesome too. So really all I'm looking at doing, I'm not looking at sanding these obviously, because I just got this texture, I don't want to get rid of it. If you had a lot of really high spots that you wanted to knock back, then you could certainly just kind of rub them loosely. And I will probably do this just a little bit around any of the inside rims where I may have gotten a drip or two, right? So I'll just kind of soften those out, get rid of anything on the inside, just so that I don't have those drips and have them getting in the way if I'm using this for, you know, some florals or other elements. But then that's it. I'm just gonna look at sealing them. I'm gonna take some DIY clear wax and just an old chip brush. My wax had melted. It's been very hot. But I'm just going to seal over this. I'm just gonna coat it in the clear wax and then wipe it back, let it dry and leave it. I'm not looking at buffing it to a bright gloss. I want it to be kind of a little bit more matte finished, and then that's it. So for this particular project, think ugly vases that you have or that you see, you know, in the dollar store or in your local thrift store. So ugly vases could be made to look beautiful. Obviously anything glass can be switched out and made to look more substantial, look kind of like, you know, kind of a concrete or a ceramic planter. You can switch old wood or anything else to look like concrete using this. So lots of applications. You remember I did the board and it looks fabulous. So it gave the board a lot of texture. So if you want to do some signs, but you only have new boards, this is a way to be able to add texture to it, make it look like it's really old and really rustic. So I'm loving the way that this goes. It's a nice alternative to buying another product like Salt Wash, especially since you can get in your dollar store. They sell baking soda and you can switch up any paint. Think in terms of patterns. You can switch that up. You can switch up the colors. You can do 1, 2 different tones, whatever matches into your home decor. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to create awesome looking home decor pieces, super cheap, but that perfectly fit in with your particular look and your particular color scheme within any room that you do. If you decide to give this a try, please post your pics. If you have questions or comments, post those as well. I love to be able to hear. If you've tried this and you have other suggestions to make it better, faster, easier for folks, I'm open to hearing that too. Drop those in the comments as well. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Take care.